Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to PMDC online lecture room. This is Mussarat Khan, lecturer at PMDC Girls, Peshawar. Today's topic of explanation is the last topic of first chapter, Education of Muslims in the Subcontinent, and the topic is Monitorial, Evaluation and Discipline System of the Muslim Educational Institutions. So what are we going to understand in this topic today? The monitorial system, the evaluation system and the discipline system of the Muslims educational institutions of that time. Then I am going to highlight a few important questions for your board examination and then your assignment. Okay, so let's begin with the understanding of monitorial system of Muslims education institutions. If we look at this word monitorial, it has derived from the word monitor, and the word monitor means the one who do the checking or the directing. So the monitorial system or method of teaching involved the competent or the elder students to teach the other students. Some students of the class were chosen as monitors and with the responsibility of keeping discipline or checking the different things of the students. They were also used as helpers to the teachers. How they used to help the teachers? They used to pass on the information they had learned from their teachers to the other weak students of the class. And obviously, the chosen students were the competent or the sharp or brilliant students of the class. This monitorial system later on was known in the whole world as Lancastrian system, and it got famous in the whole world in the 19th century. As I told you earlier in the previous slides that who were used to be chosen as monitors, the students which were brilliant and which were sharp in studies used to be chosen as the monitors of the class, and they were not only responsible for maintaining the discipline among the students, they were also responsible to pass on the information of the teacher of the lecture to the weak students to make them understand the lesson or the different concepts. Why this was important? Because it promoted the sense of responsibility and managerial abilities among students. The monitors also used to repeat the lecture of the teacher in a loud voice, and according to Maulana Shibli, the students who were given the responsibility of repeating the lecture of the teacher were known as the mueeds. The next one is the evaluation system of the Muslims educational institutions. Evaluation means judging something, judgment on the basis of the things, assessment. Now what is assessment? Assessment is testing something. So simply speaking, what were the examination system of the Muslim educational institutions of that time? So the examination or evaluation system of that time was a bit different than what we have in our institutions nowadays. The teacher used to listen the learnt lesson from the students, and for this listening the learnt lesson from the students, one day was fixed. After listening the lesson, the teacher used to decide to give promotion to the students to pass on to the next level. The purpose or the goal of listening that lesson was to check the memory or retention power of that student. Now, what does retention power mean? Retention means recalling something. So, the students' power of recalling the information given to them was assessed or tested by the teachers. Then the evaluation at higher level was done through asking different questions, discussions and debates or speeches. At the end of this process of asking questions, discussions and debates, the students were given or awarded the completion and perfection certificates. Later on, the ruler of Begapur introduced or started the annual examination system, and the exams were conducted or taken in this system in the month of Zilhajj. Let's understand the discipline system of the Muslims education institutions. First, we should know what does discipline mean. Discipline means to follow the set rules and principles as compulsion. Now, the discipline system of the Muslims educational institutions of that time was ideal. Ideal means close to perfection. Then, the education institutions of that time were of four kinds, or they would set in four categories. Some of the institutions were run by the government. Then, a few institutions were established in or outside the mosques. Some institutions were related or developed in the tombs, मज़ार जिसे कहते हैं, and some institutions were run by the elite. Elite is the rich or uppermost class, by the elite Muslims. All these institutions were autonomous. Now, autonomous means independent, and some institutions were running on the Muslims' donations. There were no prerequisites or you can say requirements for admission into these institutions. No age limit and no compulsory pre-education of the students were required for admissions in these institutions. The next is the time period for different levels at those institutions was not set before. Now, this was a bit different from the institution's rules that we have nowadays. We have the rule that each and every student at one level has to spend 1 year as the time period in that level, and after the evaluations and judgment and examinations, the students who pass those evaluation system is promoted to the next class. Now, the system they had was the students used to complete learning lessons of the given subject, and the sooner they would complete learning of those lessons, they would be evaluated by their teacher, and then they would be promoted to the next class. So, it was upon the students' ability or capabilities to learn something faster or slower. Now, the next point is there was no link or no coordination or connection between these different institutions which I discussed before, the government institutions, the state institutions in the mosques, in the tombs, and the institutions which were run by the elite Muslim class. But the curriculum of all these institutions was same. Now, curriculum means the subjects or the course of studies which were taught at different levels. The last point is education was in those institutions free and compulsory. Compulsory means necessary, lazmi. And all the expenses means ikhrajat. All the expenses of the students were met by the institutions. Even their boarding and lodging facilities were given to the students by the institutions. For example, if students would come from a faraway place, they used to live at those educational institutions, which means hostel facility was also provided by the concerned institutions. Now, with the end of this topic's discussion and explanation, let's come to the questions which are important for your board examinations and the MCQs. The question is, the discipline system of the Muslims educational institutions was ideal. I just discussed it. You have to discuss it. And then MCQs are, discipline means to follow the rules as dash. Compulsion. The student repeating the lecture of the teacher was known as dash mu'id. Now, your part in this lecture, you have to give answers of these two questions briefly. Spotlight or highlight the discipline system of the Muslims educational institutions, and explain in a few words means explain briefly the monitorial system of the Muslims educational institutions. I hope what I taught today is clear enough. If you have any questions or suggestions, you can ask me through this email address or WhatsApp number. Thank you. Allah Hafiz.